All right, so we're going to be doing a fluid art painting today, and I'm going to walk you through the steps that I take to make that happen. So we'll start first with mixing our paints. You'll see here in this particular cup how much of the base paint that I'm using. It's just a blue, and then I use American Floetrol. You can get this at the hardware store, $10. So what I do is I put a fair amount into the cup. I'm just shaking my Floetrol because I got to make sure it's mixed well. It still doesn't look right. I'm going to shake that for me. Okay, and so what we're going to do, I usually start with the Floetrol and just start mixing it into my paints. And these little plastic spatulas are wonderful because I can reuse them. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit more Floetrol, not a lot. Again, we're just trying to get the right consistency. The thing about fluid art is it's just that. It's very, very fluid. And so I'm just adding a little bit as I go. Now, just to kind of show you some of the consistency, I can tell you right now that's too thick. So what I do then is I add like distilled water. We're just trying to get our fluid just the right consistency and just a little bit each time. We don't want to overdo it. And just a little bit more. I know I don't know if you can really see from that angle, but what I'm really looking for when I'm mixing these paints is that there's a steady stream. There's a steady stream, and there's very little like mound on the actual top of the paint. That's what I'm looking for in terms of consistency. Okay, I believe that that looks good. So we've got more paints that we need to mix. I can go ahead and show you the paints that we're using. We are using light purple. Wow. Blue, let's just say blue. Regular purple, which I don't know that there's that much difference between that and the light purple. Magenta. Yellow ochre. And white. White will actually be our background in this particular painting. So we're going to pause you for just a moment while I finish mixing the rest of my paints, and then we'll get to painting. Okay, so I'm just going to mix up a little bit more of my magenta, and I wanted to just kind of explain the function of my Floetrol. So you'll see when it comes out the tube, it's very, very thick, and that type of consistency will not work with fluid art. So the Floetrol actually allows me to get the right consistency. I'm just going to add a little. I'm not going to get carried away. I'm really just eyeballing this. And so we'll start by mixing it. And I can tell you right now that that's really, really thick. And we don't want that. Because again, we want it to just kind of flow off the little spatula. We don't want it to be too thick. And Floetrol really, it's self-leveling. So the paint will just kind of level out on the canvas. And two, it allows me to get what we call lacing and cells, which are features I think that are unique to fluid art. So I'm going to check my consistency. Just checking here, making sure, we're just trying to make sure all of our paints are consistent in terms of flow, because it will make a difference when the paints are drying, and we do not want the paints to crack. So we want them basically the same consistency. All right, I think that we have our paints mixed, and so then we will be cutting to our painting itself. All right, ladies, here we go. So we're going to be actually painting a little bit of a larger painting. I just wanted to show you real quickly. I just use like masking tape basically, or painter's tape, and I put this over the back of the canvas, and this is really just to kind of protect the back of the canvas from all of the fluid paint that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to set that right there. And these paints that I'm using, it's called Master's Touch, and I buy it in at Hobby Lobby. It's like $5.99 a tube, but typically I get it 40% off. I'm not paying full price. So we're going to actually start with the base, making sure that our canvas is nice and clean. There's no hair, no debris. So we're going to put this paint down. Remember, we're working with fluid art, so everything's runny. That's the way we want it. And then I'm going to just take a little spatula, a well-used spatula, and I'm just going to kind of move, and I'm going to make sure I have a nice even coat over the whole layer of the canvas. And I've seen artists use, like, they will use a hairdryer to kind of move the paint around. And maybe I do this because it's a little bit more controlled. I feel that the hairdryer, well, I guess it would be fairly controlled in that setting. I'm icing a cake on this Sunday morning. Okay. All the way to the edges, cover everything. We want the canvas all wet. So once you feel like you have that covered, don't worry about the unevenness of it. Remember that I put Floetrol in it, so it will, as it dries, even itself out. So do not worry about that. I have my little handy dandy. Okay, I'm just, what I'm doing right now is just cleaning my little spatula. I'll come back to that. Probably not in this particular painting. Okay. So now that we have our base coat down, I'm going to start putting my colors in. And I am going to move a little bit dark to light is what I intend to do for this particular painting. So let's start with the blue. And we're just going to kind of lay down a design. Okay. And then I think for this, don't worry about that drip. Some of it will happen. It's fluid art. Okay. So once we got the blue down, then we're going to move to our dark purple. And again, we're just kind of putting down our design. And I'm not, if you'll notice, I'm not putting the paint all the way out to the edges. And that's for a reason, because once I use my hairdryer, it'll move it to the edges, trust me. Okay, so again, we're using our purples and our blues. Okay. And now we're going to move, I may save the yellow for the outer rim of our colors. So here we go. This is the magenta. We're just putting down a little bit of the magenta. And we like it because of the colors. Okay. And now, I'm going to tell you what. Let me just put a little bit more of the magenta. If this seems like a lot of paint, it is to a certain degree because it is fluid art. Okay, so this last color is ochre, and I'm just going to kind of line the outer edges with the yellow ochre. It doesn't have to be precise. You can tell from me, I'm just kind of laying it down. Let's go ahead and try to use all of my yellow ochre. Okay. And now for the white. I usually put a little bit of the white. Let's do that. A little bit of the white in the actual main body of it. But then I'm going to go around the outer edges, and I'm just going to make sure it's got a little bit of paint just to kind of flow when I turn this hairdryer on. And so before I use the hairdryer, one thing I like to do is I like to pop any bubbles. Because when you're mixing paints, what happens a lot of times is, you know, invariably air gets in there. And so we use just a little torch. They use in the kitchens. I'm going to use it for the art. I'm just going to go over lightly go over the surface, and I'm just popping any air bubbles that might be in the painting itself. And I know you can't, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the little air bubbles are popping. Okay. And so before, I just think I'm going to put a little bit more of that ochre, just because I think it's got potential to form some cells. And that's what we want. Remember, cells and lacing, in my opinion, is a good thing and what you're really trying to achieve when you're doing fluid art. All right. Now for the hairdryer itself. I just wanted to kind of show you the attachment that I use. I did try to use a regular standard hairdryer, but I feel like this narrowed edge is very important to kind of get the paint moving. I go on low setting. I know some artists will do it on high. Maybe I'm just not brave enough to do high. So I need you to follow the direction. Just kind of determine the direction that you want the paint. I think I'm going to go this way, and then this way. So here we go. You want to hold it down just enough to where you start to see the paint move. See that? Okay. Good, good, good. And now we're going to go out this way. And don't be afraid to just get in there and move that paint. What we are doing is what they call a Dutch pour. And so I want to kind of move a little bit of this. I don't want that line there. I want the paints to mix a little. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do, okay, so I'm going to just stop here and look at it for just a moment. And I just want to point out some things that are actually happening with the paints themselves. So these round little circles that have kind of captured some of the various colors, those are what they call with fluid art cells. And then up here, what you see is more of the lacing. I can tell you right now, I don't like the fact that this is very solid, or even this section here. So there's a couple different things you can do. I don't know at this point that I'm going to use the hairdryer anymore because I've already blown paint over probably 75% of my canvas. I don't think I want to I don't want to swallow up all my negative space. So having done that, and you're like, well, what about that little spot there? So this blue little spot, there's a couple different things we can do. We can literally just take it out, as I just did. Because again, I'm trying to hold on to some of my negative space, and I don't want to lose it all. Put a little bit more white down there. Okay, good. So now is the time that if we're going to do any kind of alterations, we can. I probably will do a little bit. I'm thinking about a finger swipe. And so with a finger swipe, I really just want to tie all my colors together and maybe get rid of some of this solid area. So let me show you what that technique looks like. Okay, we're back, and we want to work with this as quickly as we can while all the paints are still wet. They will take a while to dry. I imagine this particular painting will take maybe 24 to 48 hours to fully dry. But while everything is very wet, we're going to get in there and we're going to do some finger swipes. So again, you don't want to be scared. You just want to, what we're doing is just kind of moving the paint around with our finger. And we're going to try to, I just kind of envision, see, like this. So we're just, again, we have a solid color up here. I'm going to see if I can kind of break that up with my finger itself. Just finger swiping it. Still pretty solid, so, and I don't really like this particular area. Now, I do like where the cells are popping up and the lacing are popping up, so I'm going to really try my best to kind of leave that part alone. But what you're doing is you're just basically dragging this paint. And with this, you know what? Don't be scared. Just get in there. Make whatever alterations you want to make. Again, I'm not trying to detract from all my cells that I've got going on, because I do think that so see, I'm just kind of lightly blending everything, making sure it looks the way I want it to look as a finished product. So finger swipe is one particular technique. Another technique I could do, I could use a straw and blow on some of the paints. I don't know that I want to do that, just because, again, I don't want to disrupt all the different little cells and all the little lacings I've got. But I'm here to tell you I don't like. And see how that is kind of broken there. I don't really like that. Again, I'm just really trying to maintain the integrity of my negative space, because I don't want color everywhere. So again, wherever you drag it, that's the colors that are going to follow. And I don't know, it looks pretty good. So as I'm looking over this, I'm just trying to decide, do I want to make any other alterations at this point? I know that this bottom half is pretty solid. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with that, because maybe that's okay. That's how the painting is designed. So I want to, hopefully this helps. You can see me actually painting. Once you get moving, it moves really fast. You turn that hair dryer on in just a matter of a minute or less, you've got a painting. And then it's kind of up to you as the artist. Do I want to use finger swipes? Do I want to use a kebab stick to kind of add some small details? Or do I want to use a straw and blow some of that out? It's really up to the artist and their interpretation. So I hope you ladies enjoyed, and who knows, maybe some of these paintings will find their way to your home.